Let me get all the windows up that I need to be able to see you and chat with you. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone on Facebook. It is InDesign Tuesday, and great to see so many of you here live. Just let me get one more thing going here. There we go. We are connected. And so, Sean Lee in the house. What's going on? Victoria, Brianna, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see you. I see you. I see you. A Goins as well, finishing touch on Twitter. Welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and switch over. All right. Hello everybody. How's it going? Welcome to Adobe InDesign Tuesday. My name is Terry White. It'll be my pleasure to be streaming to you live today and showing you ways that you can create InDesign layouts for magazine articles. So basically that's going to be the theme or the focus today. And I'm going to walk you through it step by step and show you what you can and can't do. And with that said, thanks for joining me from all the various platforms all over the world. Nathan, Daryl, and Carlos, I see you as well. Welcome, everybody. All right, so with that said, one of the things that helped me learn InDesign when I was first trying to learn it was simply taking something that I saw in print and then recreating it just for fun, just to learn how to do it. And by having that example of whatever layout I liked, that would give me the ability to have something to mimic that I wouldn't have to necessarily do from my brain or from just, envisioning it without actually seeing a real example. And yes, Glenda, this will be on YouTube later for you to watch if you can't stay and watch it now. So, of course, again, all the shout outs to everyone watching. Lee, Ali, Leo, I see you as well, and welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and dive in so I can show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to switch over to my computer. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up a web browser here. And the reason I'm going to bring up a web browser before we get into InDesign is I just want to show you what I mean by example. So let's say that I want to just simply search for magazine article layout examples. And that'll bring up a YouTube search. And I'm not really looking for templates or ideas that way. I'm just looking at the pictures. So if I go to images, that will show me all kinds of different examples. And maybe you're not really mimicking one example or borrowing design from one example. Maybe you're combining different techniques that you see throughout, even down to the colors and some of the large headlines and how they lay it out and what side they put the picture on and so forth and so on. So often I'll look for inspiration like this. Again, I don't typically copy everything from scratch or copy everything verbatim. This is mainly just to get an idea of how I would want to lay out or think about something that, or get something I maybe wouldn't have thought of on my own. All right, so with that said, now that you know how to go get some inspiration, let's go do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to InDesign CC. I'm gonna go ahead and create a new layout from scratch. I'm also going to give you some tips on how to create a two-page spread that is side by side in InDesign. First, we're going to do that. So let's go ahead and make mine, since I'm in the US, we'll make it 8.5 by 11. We'll also go ahead and just simply make it 2 pages. Now, some of you might have tried to do this where you made it 3 pages. That way, page 1 would be blank, page 2 and 3 would be next to each other. And that's how you got around this facing pages restriction. But I'm going to show you a way to do it with just 2 pages. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to 2 pages, facing pages. Now, column guides, again, are just guides. They're there for reference. You don't have to abide by them. You can certainly override them, but they do help you keep things balanced and laid out on the page. So I definitely recommend using them. I'm going to go ahead and simply say that I want 5 columns. I'm going to set the space in between them at 1/4 inch. Just old school. I just like doing it that way. And for my bleed and slug, I'm going to set my bleed to 0.2 inches all the way around. And why 0.2 or not 0.25, it really doesn't matter. It will really be up to your printer how much space they recommend. So I'm just going to say 0.2 would work. All right, so now let's go ahead and click OK on this 2-page document. Start on page 1, no primary text frame, 5 columns, 2.5 gutter between the columns, and I set my bleed to 0.2 inches. So let's go ahead and create that document, and that will give us page 1 and page 2. And like I said, they're not next to each other, which is what you really want if you're going to do a magazine article spread. Maybe you're trying to show this off to the client and how they would envision the spread if it were really laid out. So here's how we fix that problem. You go to your Pages panel, and in your Pages panel, you will see your page 1 and your page 2. If you try and put them next to each other, it's going to fail miserably. It's just going to do this. You're just going to raise it up, and it's just nothing's going to happen. You just swap the order of the pages. Page 1 is now page 2 is now page 1. So what you want to do to get around this is simply go up to the menu for the Pages panel and turn off Allow Document Pages to Shuffle. If you turn that off, you can now take page 2 and put it right next to page 1, or page 1 next to page 2, however you want to look at it. So now I've got a 2-page document that is just the 2 pages left and right next to each other. All right, and that's also how you could do a gatefold. So if you had like a 3rd page or a skinny 3rd page and you wanted to put it next to page 2, that's another way to do it. And that's how you can have multiple pages across a spread without necessarily having to abide by the facing pages. Page 1 is always by itself. All right, so now we'll close the Pages panel. We got our layout pretty much ready to go. Let's start designing with the placeholders for where we're going to want to put content. Sometimes you'll see me just start placing the images on the page that I want. Sometimes you'll see me build the frames first. Sometimes you'll see me do both, and it's really up to you. There is no rhyme or reason or law that you have to do it one way or the other. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to draw this first page, or first frame, I should say, off the page into the bleed area, and I'm going to have it take up the whole left page, because that's going to be an image. All right, next, on that same page, I'm going to have another image, but that image is going to be cropped or framed in an ellipse. So I'm going to make a perfect circle. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold down my Shift key, and that will give me, if I hold down Shift and Option, that'll give me a perfect circle from where I started dragging. All right, so we're going to move that up just a bit, kind of get it centered. There we go. I could drag it, but arrow keys. All right, anyway, so I got that in place now. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, using my columns now, I'm going to try and divvy this up a little bit more on the next page, because the next page is really going to contain the article itself. So I'm going to grab my type tool. I'm going to go ahead and pull out a frame that's going to go from columns 2 through 5. And right, like so. That's going to be kind of like that opening teaser line that, you know, that makes people want to read the article. Hey, never seen before, footage of whatever. Anyway, next I'm going to go ahead and just create 3 frames. These 3 frames are going to be used for the title, and the title is going, now you're going to say, well, why can't you just put it all in one frame if it's just the title? Because sometimes you want to design the actual layout or positioning of what you want where. So that's why you can design it in multiple frames. So I'm going to basically create a frame for each of the words that I'm going to do. So there's going to be the first word. I may need to make it bigger or smaller. This is going to be the second set of words, which are going to be much smaller. And then the third set of words are going to be kind of like here. All right, so again, those are going to be for my title. I will show you how that's all going to work when I get ready to type the title in. And then next up, I'm going to create a frame for kind of like my subhead or my description of the article. We got the teaser up top. This is going to be for the description. And then last but not least, we're going to put 2 frames down here that are going to be linked together for the actual beginning of the article or the story. So let's go ahead and just simply drag out 1 frame. And since I want them linked, I'll switch over to my selection tool, and I'll just simply grab the output of that frame and link it to the import of that frame. So it'll just basically create a link between the two. How do I know there's a link between the two? You can always go up to your view menu and you can come down to extras and show, excuse me, show text threads. And that will always show you the line linking the two frames that you, or two or more frames that you have selected. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to actually add a little bit of space here. Let's move that up just a hair, right about there. And okay, so I'm ready to start bringing in my content. And of course, I may need to massage the layout. There's some frames that will need to move around, some things that will need to get resized, but you get the idea. And this is saying Photoshop and InDesign should be combined into one software. And I've been hearing that for 20 years. You know, this should be combined with this. There should just be one big giant application, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, it's all in one. And the minute we would do that, you would complain that, oh my God, it's too big, it's too much, it's too this, it's too that, because specialized applications work better for the people that specialize in them. There's overlap between all of the applications. You can do kind of a one-page layout easily in Photoshop, Illustrator, or InDesign. But when it comes down to heavy document processing, multiple pages, thousands of pages, designing books, doing all that kind of work, that's where InDesign really shines, and I really wouldn't want to burden Photoshop with all of that extra stuff. So yeah, I hear you. It would be nice if they were all in one, but you have the Creative Cloud now, so you can use any one you need for whenever you want. That's the beauty of the cloud. All right, so let's go ahead and start over here on the left-hand side. I've got this frame selected, and now what I want to do is I want to switch libraries. I've got a library here called Adobe Live where I started putting my content. I'm just going to grab one of my images from Iceland. So I'm just going to pull that in from the library. Now, if you didn't have a library with the image you wanted in it, you could just simply go to File and Place, or even drag and drop it into the layout. Now, if I were to click right now, it's just going to simply, well, in this case, it would add it to that frame. But if you're not over the frame, it's just going to add it as a big giant image on top of the whole thing. So since when I hover over the frame, and I know that's hard to see, but let me go ahead and see if I can make that bigger. Well, I can't zoom that in that way. Let's do it this way. You see how it's got a parenthesis around the image versus over here, it's no parenthesis. That's how you know it's going to go in the frame versus not in the frame, is when you see that little parenthesis icon. All right, so let's go ahead and click, and that will put it inside the frame. And wait, why is it just one big blue rectangle? Because it's that big. We're seeing only a small fraction of the upper left corner of that image. So what I want to do is simply use my fitting command, fill frame proportionally, to scale that down so we can see the whole thing. We were like looking at that corner up there. All right, so now that we got that scaled down, that looks good in place. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to select this ellipse, and I'm going to drag in this image of me on the Zodiac boat. And we'll just go ahead and plop that in, and the same thing, we'll fill frame proportionally, bring that down, and of course, if I wanted to cut that guy out, he was a nice guy, but if I wanted to cut him out, I just simply move that up and perhaps make this bigger so that we see more of yours truly and less of the guy driving the boat. All right, so anyway, got that in place now. Now the next thing is I kind of want some separation between that circle and the image behind it. So one of the ways of doing that is simply by creating a frame around the ellipse. So I'm going to go to my framing options here. I have some different frame choices: thin, thick, thick, thin. This goes all the way back to PageMaker 1.0 1986. I remember these choices from way back then. All right, so anyway, let's go ahead and simply select whatever that was, thin, thick, and we have to give it a weight in order to be able to see it. We'll make it nice and thick. Let's make it 4 points. And we can also change the color of it. And again, kind of make it stand out by picking a color that stands out against that background. So it could be white. It could, ooh, I kind of like white. It could be the cyan color. It could be yellow. It could be whatever you want it to kind of make that lift off the page a bit. And speaking of lifting off the page, you can also use transparency effects such as drop shadow or glow or anything like that to make it stand out even more. All right. Let's see. All right, do I mind, James, keeping this for you to watch tomorrow? It will keep it for you to watch tomorrow. I don't have to do anything. As soon as I'm done streaming, it'll be here on the page for you to watch. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to keep going. We're going to go over here. And again, I would start to put in my teaser line, my whatever this would be to kind of get people to lead into the article itself. And maybe I would say something like, this was the best adventure I ever had in a place that I thought I would never get to. All right, so we could do that. Of course, now we want to make that nice and big and prominent so we can see it. So Command A, Control A on Windows, Command Shift greater than to just simply make that bigger. We can, of course, change the font. We'll get into fonts in a bit, but there it is, and we can change colors and the whole 9 yards. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to do put in my text. I want to put in the text for my title, which is Iceland in the Summer. So let's do the word Iceland. I'm going to do it all lowercase. And in this frame, I'm going to put in the. And then in this frame, I'm going to put summer. All right. So the next thing I want is I want a nice serif font for this because I like my body copy to be sans serif. I like my title sometimes to be serif. So in order for me to get a nice serif for this, I'm going to go up to the font menu where I have the ability to simply tell InDesign what kind of style of font I'm looking for. So if I just choose serif and I say, give me all my typekit fonts for serif, I will see my choices that I've got loaded here, including one that I haven't used in a while. Let's use Merriweather for this. And of course, now that we got it in the right font, we can now make it bigger. So I make it bigger, 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 bigger. Oh, too big to where it doesn't fit in the frame anymore. No problem. Just make the frame taller. And we're going to keep going. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. Maybe not. That's good enough. Actually, we can also hit the Option or Alt key and left arrow to track that text a little tighter. All right, so now we got that in place. We're going to do the same thing for summer. We're going to just simply choose the same font we were just on, which was Merriweather. We're going to go ahead and make that nice and big as well. All right, and that way I don't have to worry about trying to type or guess what size font that is. I just make it big enough to where it looks big enough. All right, next we're going to go to the in the, and this time I'm going to center this. So Command Shift C, or you can just simply click the center icon up there. That'll center it in the frame. I'm going to make it a little bigger, but this one I'm going to keep it. Let's go ahead and set it to Merriweather as well, but let's make it all caps. That'll give us that contrast between the two. All right, now for the positioning, I'm going to move this to where it's more centered on the word Iceland. I'm going to move the word summer up a bit. This is why they're in separate frames, so they're that much easier to move around. All right, now I want some color in there, obviously, but I don't know what colors I want yet. So what I'm going to do is simply click on the image and grab the color theme tool, one of my favorite tools in InDesign. When I click that, that will give me the color theme from that image, basically sucking 5 of the major colors out of that image for me. I can then add that to my swatches or add it to the current library. If I add it to the current library, it'll add it. I can also change them to be bright or what's the other choices? Dark or deep or muted. So you can get some variation on those colors as well. So actually I'm going to try muted as well. Let's go ahead and add that to the library and go back to our selection tool, which takes us out of our color theme tool. All right, so now that I got some colors to play with, I'm going to go ahead and simply select the Iceland. Let's make that a nice blue. And let's do the summer and make that kind of that green. And let's see what, yeah, it's kind of looking okay. Not the worst thing I've seen in the world, not the worst thing I've even seen today. All right, so let's go in. Now we have our frame that's going to be our teaser text that, we got our teaser, our description text. I don't even want to write that right now. So I'll just go in and fill this with placeholder text. So I'll just fill that frame with some placeholder text. I will replace it later with the actual text that it goes with. One more frame that I forgot to create is the author. So let's just do by Terry White. And we can, of course, put that over here. next to our Iceland. Not that close. Pull that out a bit. Move that down a bit. Something like that. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and do two more things. We're going to go ahead and add some text here. So since these two frames are linked together, as soon as I add my placeholder text for that, it will go ahead and just simply fill it all the way, both frames. And the next thing I want to do is I want to add in a couple of rules. So I'm just going to grab the line tool and let's go ahead. How many typekit fonts are you allowed to have? You can have as many as you want. The artificial limitation is 100 at a time. But I don't think we enforce that limit or have yet to enforce that limit. All right, so let's go ahead and drag out that rule. Let's go ahead and simply choose, let's make that 2 points. And again, we can give that a color as well. Let's give that the red color. Actually, yep, cool. And I'm going to duplicate that by holding down the Option or Alt key and dragging it down. And we'll make the second one only 1 point. Kind of make it a little thick and thin there as well. All right, so next thing we'll do is see what that looks like without all the distractions. In other words, the distractions are the ruler guide or the guides, column guides, the frame handles, the frames themselves. So let's hit the letter W without being in the type tool. Now simply switch to preview mode. So we're getting there. All right, so let's go back. You don't have to go back, but I'm going to go back because I want to do one more thing. Now I'm in on this paragraph, and I would love to make that initial character a drop cap because you see that in magazine articles all the time. The easiest way to do that is just to simply go over to the drop cap feature, which is right here, and just simply tell it how many lines you want that to take up. Well, 1 line, it's no different than it was. 2 lines. Am I on the right one? Oh, sorry, I was on the wrong one. I was telling it how wide to make it. How many characters to use, I mean. This is what I want. So 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, I don't know, 5 lines, however big of a drop cap you want, and it will just simply take up that many lines. If I were to say more than 1 character, that's what this one was I was clicking on before. So it was, if I wanted the whole word is, I would just say 2 characters versus 1 character for my drop cap. And of course, it's always cool when you put the drop cap in a different color to make it stand out even more. All right, with that said, we are on our way to our magazine layout, but we are out of time. So now you can see why. Why did you use blank instead of a paragraph rule? I usually make my paragraph rules. Why did I draw lines versus making a paragraph rule? No reason. Why do you copy paste versus alt drag? It's whatever you choose. So yeah, I could have done a paragraph rule on that, but I could change my mind and not want the rules or move the rules around or move them further apart. And it's easier for me to just physically make the rules and drag them around than it is to have to go back into the settings and change the settings for the rules each time. But if I were going to use paragraph rules throughout the document, I would actually do that and make it part of a paragraph style. All right, so with that said, let's see if I missed any more questions. Well, I am glad you are, as a makeup artist, willing to learn something new. That is great. You can always learn something new. And I'm sorry, every time you want to watch these, you're stuck somewhere where you can't watch them, but you can always watch the replay. All right, cool. You had a problem understanding InDesign, but this has kind of addressed it for you. Glad I could help. All right. All right, yeah, simple, basic design, but again, it's where you make it more complex if you want, but it is what it is. So with that said, thank you everyone for watching this, and thank you for joining me from all over the world. How much does it cost for Photoshop? Head over to adobe.com/creativecloud. You can start with a Photoshop and Lightroom plan for $9.99 a month. All right, with that said, thanks everyone. Is there one more question trying to sneak in there? How do you select a single color? Well, you select a single color like you would in Photoshop. Don't use the color theme tool use the eyedropper tool just like you do in Photoshop, and that will select a single color. So the color theme is grab multiple colors from the image. The actual eyedropper, which was there first, which you can still get to, will let you select one color. All right, so with that said, thanks everyone again. Thank you for watching. I could go on all day, but I don't have all day. Time to say goodbye. Bye, everybody.